You're hearing it here first. We are live at AM Radio 1000. This is a very special broadcast today from us to the Virgin Islands community and to the global online listening community. And I am your speaker, Leon, the graphic guy. And I am here with a very special guest, Mr. Mac McClafferty.
It's good to be here.
It's an understatement to say that you are a polarizing figure in the community. But I'd like to jump right into it.
Yeah.
Who is Mac McClafferty?
Listen, man, and this is a question I get a lot. I think that there's an inherent maybe distrust for transplants, the way at least the community perceives transplants to the Virgin Islands. But
Meaning people that moved here.
people that moved here, right?
Okay.
But what people don't realize is that I've been here since I was 11 years old.
I was
right?
going to ask you that. Like, what's your association to the island?
And that's it, right? So at 11 years old, my family, I have extended family that moved to the Virgin Islands, and this was my second home. I spent almost my entire childhood when not in Ohio going to school.
That's
we're
where
on a
you're originally
vacation. Yeah, it was Ohio.
Okay.
And when I wasn't in school, we were here on vacation. And this was home. This was our second home. So
you've seen this place change.
Major. I've seen this place. Listen, I remember before Yacht Haven was Yacht Haven, right?
Okay.
I mean, at Long Bay. I mean, I remember when the tavern on the waterfront, which I think is now Rendezvous, was I think it was an Arby's, right?
Really?
At one point, yeah. So the idea that I'm somehow new to the island or a transplant.
Correct.
I don't think that that's a very fair assessment because as far as I can remember, I've always been coming to the Virgin
From my
Islands.
research, the way it's displayed,
Yeah.
you just came here and just started doing all these things.
Right. That's not true.
It's not true.
It's not accurate.
Okay, so what is the truth? When you came here, you started coming here since you was 11, right?
Right.
I'm assuming you're in your late 20s, 30s.
I'm 37 years old.
30. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
okay,
37.
that's a long time, man.
No, I'm 37 right now, so I've been coming since I was 11.
Wow.
So what are we talking? We're talking 26 years.
Yeah, man.
Right? Been on and off the island.
Okay.
But as far as for business purposes, that is more relatively new, right? And when we made a decision to come to the Virgin Islands, there was obviously the plan was to pursue EDC benefits, right? And me, I've always loved the Virgin Islands, so to have the opportunity to both live and work here, I thought that was a good opportunity, right?
So the question I was going to ask you is why St. Thomas? Is it safe to say that's why?
I mean,
It
I mean,
was
St.
an
Thomas.
easy decision to make.
Well, I will tell you. I mean, listen. The frank truth is that I don't really have a whole lot of connection to St. Croix. Right?
Okay.
I've been to St. Croix once.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not real familiar with St. Croix in comparison to St. Thomas. I'm very familiar with St. Thomas. I'm very comfortable.
Yeah, you know your way around.
I do. Right. And I like, coming from the States, I do still like a little bit of hustle bustle.
Correct.
And I think that you get that in St. Thomas.
You do.
That you don't get in other islands, right?
That's
I love St. John's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
What's there not to love about St. John? It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could live on St. John.
Yeah.
I like to visit St. John. I don't know if I could live on St. John.
Yeah.
So for me, St. Thomas was a natural
Choice.
choice, right?
Yeah.
So when the opportunity presented itself during COVID to move the operation down to the Virgin Islands to potentially pursue these EDC benefits, it made sense. Also, the option was very clear. It's you want to do COVID in Ohio?
Exactly.
You want to do COVID on Megan's Bay, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't a hard decision.
Understood.
So
Understood.
That's why we came
Now,
down.
call me ignorant.
Yeah.
What is EDC?
So the Economic Development, Commission, right?
Okay.
So you have the EDA, right?
Okay.
Then you have these economic development EDC companies that are awarded. They get a tax benefit to operating in the Virgin Islands. Now, we actually never pursued the EDC benefits, and part of the reason that we never pursued the EDC
Who's
benefits, when I say we, Mac Private Equity, right?
Okay.
We never pursued the EDC benefits because of the litigation that started in April of 2024. We felt that it would have been an inappropriate time to pursue that. But prior to April of 2024, that was the trajectory that we were going to go. So, we never, to be clear, we never actually pursued the EDC benefits.
Okay. It's just not existent.
Well, not for us. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's existent. I mean, there's plenty of EDC companies.
Correct. But as far as you guys' participation with them,
We're not
it
an
doesn't
EDC
exist.
company. We've never made a formal application to the
Gotcha.
EDA.
Okay.
We've received, and this is the thing I want to make clear,
Mm-hmm.
because as you're aware of the gossip that's online, and some individuals in this community have tried to conflate my relationship with the governor, which is a strictly
Mm-hmm. Are
personal
we going to
friendship.
get into the gossip?
We're going
today?
to get into that. We are going to get into
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Listen,
I'm
this is
gonna have
going to
to
be
turn up
the good, the bad, and the ugly, man.
AC
Let's
a
get
little.
into it, right?
Okay.
But they try to conflate my relationship with the governor, which is a strictly personal relationship, other than the fact that I serve on his advisory council for the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which is an unpaid advisory role. Other than that,
But do you receive monies from the government?
nothing. That was
A
my
penny.
not a penny, and that was my point. So we're not an EDC company.
Okay.
We've never pursued it. So number one, we're not getting any benefits from the Virgin Islands, right?
Interesting.
Number one. Number two, I've not received a single dollar, and I'm not being cute about this. Like, oh, well, I didn't receive it, but one of my companies received it through
Yeah.
another company.
Correct.
Not a company I have any interest in. Not a foundation that I have any association with.
There's absolutely
Nothing.
no proof
Not a single
of
dollar.
any
You will never see a
monies.
dollar,
Uh-huh.
a check, or a dollar made out to me or any of my companies that came from the government of the Virgin Islands or even the U.S. government. We
Wow.
received no PPP money.
Uh-huh.
We have received zero benefits whatsoever from the federal government, from the local government.
Uh-huh.
So this notion that somehow, it's an inherently corrupt relationship between me and the governor
Yeah.
because some people try to conflate it that way. It's
I've
absolutely
seen
ludicrous.
I've seen a picture of you guys hanging out recently.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen. First of all, let's get into the pictures.
Okay.
Number one, I was at C-Trade, right?
What's C-Trade?
C-Trade is the convention that's held in Miami every year, which is like the Maritime Industry Convention, right?
Gotcha.
All
That's
the
important to the
very
US
important.
Virgin
And
Islands.
the cruise ship associations are part of that. The people that make the paper plates that are sold to the cruise ships are
Yeah.
there. And by the way, restaurants like mine,
Yeah.
St. Thomas Social, which is on the harbor,
Correct.
right by the port, right by Waco.
Oh, yeah.
It's important to me. It's important to me, number one, to understand the trends that are going on
Correct.
in the maritime industry. And it's also important for me to network with companies that are there. Just last week or the week before when I was at C-Trade, St. Thomas Social, we locked in 5 parties, buyouts, right?
Wow.
That's $120,000 in new revenue generated
Oh, my
for
goodness.
the restaurant,
Yes.
which then in turn, by the way, has to pay gross receipts on that.
Okay.
So $120,000, that's $12,000 in gross receipts that gets paid to the Virgin Islands. So the point is that yes, I was at C-Trade.
Okay.
Yes, I saw Governor Bryan,
Correct.
at a barbecue, right? I did not go with Albert Bryan.
I see.
I was not a guest of Governor Bryan's.
I see.
We were at a barbecue together. We are friends. We took a picture.
Yeah.
And that's where the disingenuous nature of this whole thing comes into play.
Because I
Right?
thought you guys went together
No.
and made deals together and
No.
they're paying you.
Well,
and-
because you would think that. Because
Correct.
a certain former senator from the Virgin Islands,
Uh-huh.
then, because she's very clever, and I'll give her that, what she does is first she takes the picture from my Facebook of me and the governor.
So you posted the picture.
I posted the picture,
Okay.
right, of us at C-Trade, which
Gotcha.
I think is a good thing for the Virgin Islands.
I would post it.
Of
if
course.
I'm with the governor.
First of all, if I would, it would be like malpractice for the governor of the Virgin Islands not to be at C-Trade, right?
I see what you're
and
saying.
for me, as a business owner, it would be business malpractice for me not to be there because my business is heavily reliant
Yeah.
on the maritime industry. Yachts, we're in Yacht Haven. Yachts, cruise ships.
Yeah.
I mean, we both had to be there. So
Yeah.
we took a picture, I posted, she then runs with it, right? Next thing this former senator does is that she then posts a picture of me and Governor Bryan on a plane. And it's disingenuous because she was purposely trying, and she said it, oh, this is Trump and Elon 2.0 flying around.
Really?
Flying
You guys
around,
are related
yeah,
to
jet
the-
setting while we're out of power here in the Virgin Islands and there's sewage in the streets.
So
I
Matt,
hold on a second, Leon. I got news for you. That picture was 3 years old. That was a 3-year-old picture.
I see what
from
you're
a
saying.
time when he,
I thought it was from recently.
of course,
from when you
that's
guys
because
went.
that's the way she used it.
But how much of this do you have to take on that it's play, right? Are they just playing around? Are they just being silly? Are they
I don't
being
think she's
funny?
being silly at all. I mean, to be honest with you, is that listen? I think that she smells blood in the water, and let's get into it, right? I mean,
Okay.
at the end of the day, Janelle Saroux was the lieutenant gubernatorial candidate with Kurt VLA against Governor Bryan and Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach, right?
Okay.
There is obviously some sour grapes on the way that election went down on the other camp, on the losing side, right? I think that she's on this like I told you so campaign now.
Okay.
Because there's been, unfortunately, some criminal indictments in the administration that have come down that are unfortunate.
Yeah.
But listen, this isn't the first administration, and it's not going to be the last administration on an island that is so closely knit, where half the island is either directly or indirectly related to each other. That's ever going to have an issue with one or two people. If you have 3,000 employees, and you have 5 people with a corruption issue, that's a very small percentage. But anyway, because it's been higher profile, right?
Yeah, it's talked
I
about
think
more.
she smells blood in the water.
Okay.
Right? And she goes, now I can come back and I can say, I told you so.
Yeah.
You should have voted for us. We told you all along. This is what it was. And by the way, look at this shady character, McClafferty, who the governor is hanging out with. And he posts a picture of us at C-Trade and then posts a 3-year-old picture of us on an airplane, which was from 3 years ago when he and I just randomly were sitting next to each other. Randomly.
I see what you're saying.
We weren't together.
Yeah.
I've never traveled with the government. I've never been part of an envoy for the government. Nothing.
Well, the way the community and the way I see it, I can't lie on my eyes, right?
Right, of course.
I see and I hear you're a crook.
Yep.
You're involved with them.
Yep.
And you're in bed with these
Of course.
guys, right?
Yep.
Is that true?
Absolutely not. First of all, what would the implication of crook, okay, would mean that there is some type of illicit benefit being got, right? First, I have never received $1 from the government.
Yes.
So what benefit am I getting from this relationship other than the fact that some of these people are my friends, right? I also have a vested interest in certain politics on this island, pro-business agendas, agendas that are, that benefit, my businesses.
Correct.
Right? So yes, I do fundraisers for candidates that I think have harmonious political views as I do. I do fundraisers for candidates who believe in causes that I believe in.
I was also told you have a political background.
I do. And listen, I mean, and here's the funny thing. Since I mentioned Janelle, because this is where a lot of this has stemmed from, right?
Okay.
There's really in this community this whole Janelle versus Mac kind of thing going on, right? And the truth is that I respect Janelle.
Okay.
I think that she's a very smart woman.
Yeah.
The truth is we're probably much more similar than either she or I would want to give the other credit for.
Correct.
She's a political science student. I'm a political science student.
Oh,
she was elected very young. I was elected commissioner at 19 years old in my hometown. Appointed commissioner, I should say. Let me clarify that. Appointed commissioner in my hometown at 19 years old. And I think that we're similar in a lot of ways. My issue with her is that I think she's an opportunist, and I think that she's being purposefully disingenuous about what's really going on to make this aura of corruption bigger than it really is. And that's not good. Listen, it's one thing when you're just trying to hammer away to be politically relevant and to make a political comeback. But if you actually care about the community, casting all these aspersions upon everyone's asparagus to make everybody who's in government out to be a crook, all you're doing is eroding the faith of the public in their government, and that's not good either. Because if we don't have a community that is simpatico with their elected government, then what are we doing, right? So I don't think it's beneficial to the community what she's doing. And me personally, I do feel personally attacked. I feel like she's trying to use me as a way to gain political points, and it's unwarranted.
Well,
It's not fair.
I think what happens a lot, especially for people in your position,
Yeah.
we forget the human aspect. You know, McClafferty is this icon, right? But we forget the man, McClafferty, the human McClafferty, the man that comes from a family,
Of course.
the man that has a past, right? And dealing with those consequences, how are you able, like, why do you stay, right?
This is my home. Yeah, I mean, this is home, right? You know, I love it here. I mean, first of all, my businesses are here now. You know, I love it here. My friends are here. You know, my girlfriend's here. Her family's here. I mean, it's not the idea of just leaving. Because first of all, I've never been a pick up my ball and go home kind of guy. That's not who I am, right?
Awesome.
And one thing about me, for better or worse, and against a lot of people's advice, I am a natural counterpuncher, right?
Okay.
A lot of people tell me, hey, man, just ignore them, don't respond, don't do this. That's really not who I am.
Yeah.
Right? It's not who I am. I can't, and also because I'm not a Virgin Islander, right? You know, I'm a white statesider. I'm Italian Irish Catholic from Ohio. You know, I don't have the same tribal protections down here that somebody that's from here would have. So I have to, when somebody is attacking me or one of my businesses, and I believe that it's being done maliciously and falsely, I think that I have an obligation to correct the record, because it can run crazy, and all of a sudden that has an impact not only on me, but the 36 local Virgin Islanders that I employ. They don't talk about that part.
No.
That I have one white guy, and then, by the way, to me, I could care less whether you're white, black, or purple. I hire the best people for the job.
Gotcha.
However, with that being said, out of 36 employees, I have one white employee who happens to be from Canada. So I don't even have a white statesider that works for me. So are we local or are we not local?
Well, to me, I'm learning that perception is everything.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
So how people perceive you, take you and I, for example, right? People see us together.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, whatever I got going on falls on you.
For sure.
Right? So I look at that as, do we want the truth, or do we just want
drama,
the melee and the romance behind it, right?
There's some truth to that.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I think that there's some truth to that. I think that, again, you know, gossip rages in a small town,
correct,
or a small island, and I think that the drama of that is compounded when there are issues, right? Like, let's be frank, right? People are hurting right now, right? The economy's not good. Right, there's two different, and first of all, the stock market is tanking. We could get into that when we talk about the Chapter 7.
Right?
That's a whole other thing, right? But
we're going to get into that too.
I want to get into all of it. That's what this is about, right? Okay. I want to clear the air on all this nonsense that's going on.
And I have a question as well, but go on, continue.
But anyway, you have already a stock market that's now hurting 401ks and everything else with this tariff nonsense. Okay, but more importantly, you have two economies. You have the lived economy, then you have the investor economy. Most Americans and most Virgin Islanders don't have the benefit of playing in the investor economy, right? Okay. So they're in the lived economy. They're the ones paying $16 for eggs. They're the ones paying $5 for a gallon of gas, right? So people are hurting financially. On top of that, we have real problems with our power system here in the Virgin Islands, which, by the way, we've had this problem for the last 70 years. The idea that you can just wave a magic wand and correct this problem without direct help from the Department of the Interior is nonsense. Or the Department of Energy is crazy.
Well, people say that the governor can't save it. Is that true? Like, as a friend, do you guys talk about these issues?
I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest, man. I mean, mine and the Governor Bryan's relationship is very much friends outside of work, right? Okay. He has his advisors,
Absolutely.
And you know what, man? When he comes to social or we're out and about,
Yeah.
I don't really want to stress him out with
Yeah.
work that he's been doing all day anyway. So
That he
the
gets
truth is we really
all
don't
the time.
have these conversations.
Okay.
Right? But I think it's an unfair attack on the governor
Yeah.
to say that he's somehow responsible for a 75-year problem. Right? I think he's done the best to try to keep the current system that we have afloat and operating,
Yeah.
because it doesn't do anybody any good if the lights go out. Right?
Correct.
So on top of this, so back to your original point,
Yeah.
is you have people that are hurting, right? So when you have people that have are having a power situation, we're having a situation with jobs, we're having a situation with pay, we're having a situation with inflation. You have this calamity of things that's going on. People, for lack of a better word, I think are pissed, right?
Yeah.
So it makes the gossip that much more potent, and the vitriol is so much stronger, because there's also real anger. If everyone's happy and everyone's living a good life,
everyone
they
just
don't really,
shrugs
they
through
don't
it.
really
Yeah.
care,
We don't
right?
get-
You don't
yeah,
care.
yeah.
But when things are going good, and then it doesn't help when you see some headlines with some high-ranking officials in the government that we should be able to trust that. And listen, I mean, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. I don't want to go there, but those headlines don't help.
Well, speaking of headlines, I ran across a mugshot of yours.
Yes.
And I didn't know
Yes.
that you were ever been arrested.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you
Yes,
say
I was.
we smell blood in the water,
Yeah.
that to me that's blood.
I
Right,
think
'cause-
that I am a good person for them to try to use to make that corrupt argument, right? Because in 2017 I was indicted in the state of Ohio.
Okay. Because to us,
I mean, I want to talk about what that was.
Yeah, but I'm referring to the mugshot,
Yeah.
right? To us, a mugshot
Yeah.
is the clear definition of someone doing something illegal.
Of course.
Right?
Of course, and I think that's a stand. I mean, I don't fault anybody for thinking that. But what you have to do is your research, and you have to understand that it's nuanced. Number one, it was a 58 count indictment that
a lot of counts,
that
man.
related to the Ohio Consumer Sales Protection Act, which had to do with a roofing company. We were an insurance restoration company the name of the company was called Mac Contracting.
Okay.
I was 25 years old, and in 2 years, I built this company into a $12 million a year business.
Really?
It was huge, right? Had 52 different employees. We were doing, again, $12 million a year in sales. We were running 45 different crews across the state of Ohio.
With one white employee.
No. That was Ohio. There was we had a lot of Amish employees.
there
Actually,
you
believe it or
go.
not, there was a lot of Amish. But the thing is, so there are strict rules in Ohio on consumer sales, right? How long do you have to complete a job? When can you take a deposit? When can you take a deposit? When can you not take a deposit on a job? And things like that. Again, I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Was I perfect? Absolutely not. I could have done things better. I was 25. But guess what? I went to trial because I knew in the law, there's this thing called mens rea, right? Which says that you could make a mistake, but they have to be able to establish that you did it on purpose with the intent to defraud somebody or something like that. There was never any intent. I was 25 years old trying to do the best I could. So we go to trial on 58 counts. They found me guilty of 8, right? 8 counts. Those 8 counts were reversed on appeal by the Ohio Court of Appeals because there was no intent. So as I sit before you, yes, there was a mugshot. Yes, there were articles about the indictment.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's also an article that makes it very clear that the convictions, the 8 counts that I was convicted of, were reversed on appeal. So that is a very important thing I think that people need to know, right?
You know, it's funny because all I hear is, he's a crook, he's a thief, he's a liar, but right now I'm hearing the picture happened 3 years ago.
The picture on the plane.
The picture on the plane.
With the governor.
Correct.
Was 3 years ago.
The mugshot charges
Was 10 years ago.
was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And those all fell through.
They did, yeah.
So where is the blood?
But it gets back to your point about perception.
Okay.
Right? It's that this isn't really about protecting the Virgin Islands. This isn't really about doing the Virgin Islands any justice. This is about muddying the waters, right? Our whole goal is you just had this whole David Whittaker debacle that just went on, right? Now it's okay. We have another white guy from the States right? They don't say that I've been here since 11 years old.
No,
right?
I didn't know that.
They don't get into my philanthropic work. They don't get into
No.
the 36 local employees that I have, the restaurant that we run, the gross receipts, taxes that we pay, all that. They don't get into any of that.
No.
They just say, okay, there's another guy with, we found this thing from 2015 and 17 that went from 15 to 17 that makes them look a little bit shady, right?
Yeah.
So now it's not a hard bridge to cross
Correct.
for people to say, we got ourselves another one,
Well,
right?
we think
It's
history,
nonsense.
We thank history for that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're fighting against,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
But you have to be a strong individual to
Of
deal
course.
with what you deal with. That's
Yeah.
why I'm saying, why stay, right? And because I don't want you to go anywhere, but however,
Because I think a weak man runs, right? I mean,
Correct.
a weak man's going to run from his from
and
a
guilty
problem,
men run as well.
right? And I just think in general, like, what are you going to? What am I going to do? I'm going to spend the rest of my life answering. First of all, I'm very proud of what I did in the state of Ohio. Okay, I don't know too many 25-year-olds who have built $12 million companies.
Correct.
Right? And then made another $9 million in cryptocurrency because nobody else had the foresight except me and my group of partners who were mining in Arizona
Wow.
back mining, when we say mining Bitcoin, when it was at $2.25 a coin.
Okay.
Right? And then unloaded it at 19,000 a coin. So I'm very proud of what I've done in Ohio.
As you should be.
Let's get that clear, right? However, was I perfect? Absolutely not. I was 25 years old, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my life
Explaining that.
running or explaining. I don't mind explaining,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to run from something that happened at 25 when I was cleared by the Court of Appeals anyway. You see, that is my thing. So if people want to believe the BS
Yeah.
and believe that that I'm this bad guy,
Yeah.
right? Because Janelle Saros says I am, then I can't change that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to uproot my life and leave and go anywhere, right? Because a few people don't like me. If half the community doesn't like me, if that's the case, then you don't have to like me.
Yeah.
But know this. Know that your dislike for me isn't based on your interactions with me.
Yeah.
It's based on nonsense that you're reading that you're taking as gospel
Correct.
without doing your research.
Correct. So I've asked people to like research you, do some R&D on McClafferty.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at what they came back with. And I just need to know from you, Mac, like, what do you want? Like, what's an ideal situation?
I mean, I want happiness like everybody, right?
Correct.
I want love.
Okay.
You know, I mean,
No doubt.
and I tell you what I don't want. I don't want 10-degree weather and snow anymore. So
Yeah.
I'm done
Absolutely.
with the state
So-
of Ohio.
so then here's
but
the
I mean,
hard
it's
question.
Yeah, I mean, I want what everybody
Correct.
wants.
Do you and please be honest,
Yeah.
do you feel you deserve happiness and love?
I believe so. I believe
Okay.
everybody deserves
Based
happiness.
on what?
Well, I think everybody deserves happiness, right? I mean, listen. Listen. Here's the deal. I know in my heart that I'm a good person. I'm not a perfect person. I'm a sinner. I just did confession the other day. I'm a Catholic, right? And I do the best that I can, right? But everybody, that I think if you talk to people who actually know me, right, that have a relationship with me, right, they'll tell you, number one, I'm fiercely loyal, right? I am fiercely generous. If I love you, I got your back, right? I make sure that the people that are around me are taken care of, right? And that if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, period. Which gets into other things. Because this is a small community, I think that there is, maybe a little bit of a detach on, what is just business and what is not, right? I have 13 companies, right? One company, right, which was Mac Private Equity, okay, that we took through a Chapter 7 because it became insolvent after we were incapacitated in court for a year by a local predatory attorney who, by the way, has his own ethics issues. The Supreme Court of the Virgin Islands already held him in criminal contempt, okay? But that's enough. We can get down, go down that rabbit hole another day. But the point is, I got this predatory attorney who essentially paralyzes this business, makes it incapable for this particular, remember, one of 12 businesses to function properly in a way that it can sustain its debt load, right? So now what's happening is this: we're paralyzed. We're having to refinance debt that's already on the books because the company only carries debt. We're not stockbrokers. We don't deal in securities, right? So we carry debt looking for projects. Now I'm having to refinance debt that's already coming due because I can't function properly in this business because we're paralyzed in court. That's costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars. On top of that, I got hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills for this company. At some point, as a businessman, you have to make the determination that it's time to stop the bleeding, right? Cut your losses and stop the bleeding. And that's exactly what the Chapter 7 is for. It turns it over to the U.S. Trustee's office.
And that's the bankruptcy, right?
Yes, and it says liquidate the assets, and that's it. And that's the end of it for that particular business. Donald Trump, our president, and I'm not a Trump fan. I've been hearing this crazy nonsense all over the internet
a lot of them out there.
that I'm MAGA and I'm a big Trump guy. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm a lifelong Democrat. I was an elected member of the Democratic Party Central Committee. I'm a big-time Democrat. Let's get that clear. However, I will tell you this, that your president has taken corporations through bankruptcy 7 different times, and he's in the White House.
Yeah.
So this idea that utilizing the chapter laws of this country makes you a bad person or somehow makes you a crook, that's just not true. The chapter laws are the chapter laws for a reason. Nobody's happy when something has to go through a Chapter 7 because there's losses that people are going to take. I am a creditor to my own company for $200,000 that's owed to me from that company, right? So when there's a liquidation, I'm going to take a loss, right, on that particular amount.
Okay.
But that's life on the Serengeti.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some,
Yeah.
okay? I'll make my money back in other businesses.
Yeah. So let me take the gloves off, Mac.
Yeah.
Let me take the gloves off. Because to me, and this is me talking to you,
Yeah, for sure.
personally, it sounds like a rich guy claiming the victim. Are you a victim?
No, what would I be a victim of? I mean, I'm not a. Listen, do I feel that the lawsuits? First of all, let's get clear. One attorney, not multiple. One attorney has. I've only been sued on this island by one attorney.
Okay.
One attorney and his friend in St. Croix brought one, so it didn't look like it was all him. But of all the cases,
It came from one source.
all of them came from one source. Okay, let's be clear.
Okay.
All right. So, do I feel that we were unfairly targeted? Yes, I do. Do I feel that it was unethical and that there should be some type of ethical repercussions with maybe the bar, the Virgin Islands Bar Association for this guy? Absolutely. I don't know. I don't really look at myself ever as a victim because I kind of look at business as a jungle, right? And
Like
you
shark
know,
eat shark.
yeah, man. And at the end of the day, for whatever reason, I don't think it was smart. I mean, I don't see how he benefited his clients or himself in what he's done. But if his agenda was to to make headlines and to make himself look like some self-appointed attorney general, okay, fine. That's what he did. He got the best of the company. Okay, no, that's it.
Yeah,
The company,
kudos.
look what you did. You put the company into a Chapter 7. So I don't really, I mean, obviously, I'm not thrilled with the way that went down.
Correct.
But I don't really look at myself as a victim. I think that he was a predatory attorney. I think that the company was a victim of this individual. I don't know if me personally.
Yeah.
I'll recover. I always do.
Because from the community's point of view,
Yeah.
we feel the bully is getting bullied, right? So do you feel like you're backed into a corner, or are you just taking the blows piece by piece, or is there an end game?
I mean, I don't know what his end game is. All right. I mean, the most recent thing is he's now tried to circumvent the automatic stay of the Chapter 7, which is a direct violation of the federal court's order by suing other businesses that I own. And he sued a made-up person that he claims is my brother.
Yeah.
I have no brothers, by the way.
They said you had a brother.
They said,
What was it,
Michael McClafferty. I have no brothers. I don't even have a Michael in my family.
You don't have a brother.
I don't have a brother. And I don't have a Michael in my family. So it's not like he got a cousin confused for a brother. I have no Michael in my family whatsoever.
How do people get away with it?
I don't know. I mean, you got to file a bar complaint, and you got to do this, and you got to file a motion to dismiss, and it takes time. And, and by then, the damage is already done because people are already believing the nonsense that they're hearing, right? So, I mean, this is, you asked what is the end game? I can't waste my energy focused on what this guy's end game is. right?
Correct.
So all I can do is just keep living my life and building the best businesses possible, keep making money for the territory, keep creating jobs for the territory, keep making money for myself and my family, and that's it.
Speaking of that, you have some accomplishments under your belt
Okay.
for the Virgin Islands specifically.
Yes.
Is that something you can touch on, or?
Of course. I mean, listen, I'm very proud of the you talking about the philanthropic work that we've done down here?
Well, I can't keep up, to be quite honest.
I mean, because there's a lot of it.
I have a couple of things
Yeah.
at the top of, but coming from you,
Yeah.
I think it's a little more important
So, I mean, listen.
for the listener.
We have awarded $150,000 in scholarships over the last 5 years. That is a fact. Bruce Flamone can attest to that because he was there with the
I don't know who that is.
with the students that were selected as part of Kappa.
Okay.
When we awarded the scholarships over the last 5 years. The point is that's a fact. Okay.
Okay.
I've sponsored everything from the Children's Christmas Parade to the Kids Carnival Village I lobbied with Casey, who I think you guys had on the show Casey Payton was on the show last week with the VI Justice Initiative.
Yes.
I worked directly with her
Okay.
and Senator Javon James to get legislation passed that calls for automatic expungements when somebody is charged and the charge is dismissed. Because what was happening is people would get charged, there would be a finding of no probable cause by the judge, which means it's over. And then these people in the community would have to spend $5,000 to get that off of their record, because even though no probable cause was ever found,
Yeah.
they still were, it was still reflecting on their record, right? So we passed comprehensive legislation with the help of Senator James and Casey with the VI, and we donated $2,500 to that cause as well. That's a major accomplishment for the people of the Virgin Islands. I mean, you're changing. That's criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm proud of that. Right.
Okay.
There's so many philanthropies that I'm involved in down here.
Like, and there's little small tidbits that mean a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be this huge production.
Right.
But I've known you to sponsor field trips and things
Of
like
course.
that, and little things, and feeding kids.
I try never to say no, to be honest. Even if it's like, hey man, we can't do a lot right now.
Yeah.
If I can do 500 or 250, I try to do it, man.
That's awesome.
I
man.
mean, try to do what you can do. Listen, I love this community. I love the people. I'll also tell you this: is that the people are not the internet. Okay, is that you have an angry cohort of keyboard warriors on the internet
Okay.
that certainly do not represent the vast majority of Virgin Islanders.
Repeat that, Mac. Please.
There is a contingency on this island of keyboard warriors that if you were to just read the forums and read the hate and the nastiness spewed by these individuals, you would think that Virgin Islanders are nasty and hateful people. They do not reflect real Virgin Islanders, and you would be surprised how many people I come in contact with that don't even know anything about what's going on these forums because they stay away from them.
Yeah.
So number one,
They're happy people
the
too, I
forums,
bet.
the forums do not represent the vast majority of Virgin Islanders. Number one, but to the extent that these people in these forums are actually upset, I'm here to answer the questions that they have, but they got to be fair too.
Correct.
Right? You got to have an open mind.
Yeah.
You can't just dislike somebody because it looks like he's making a lot of money on this island, isn't black, right? Comes from the States, is friends with the governor, and it looks like there's been some unfair advantage.
It sounds like a reason to hate some person.
No, I'm saying, but it's something like,
very
what
good
unfair
reason.
advantage did I have?
True
I've never
that.
had an unfair advantage.
but
I work
you're-
for everything that I have.
You're speaking to people that live behind an unfair advantage. So there has to be an understanding of that, right? So the way I look at it, Mac, is it's a hard rock to be behind, right?
Right.
But we can't say it sucks to be you, because
No,
it doesn't suck.
I
to be
don't
you.
I don't think
Life
it sucks.
is grand.
I don't
right?
think
You
it
feel
sucks
me?
to be me. I love my life.
So when it comes to us in the community and things like
Yeah.
that, it's easy to have sour grapes seeing somebody benefit, because they look at your wealth as our labor, a true reflection of our labor. So that's where a lot of the hatred kind of comes from. So to debunk that, to me, would be a good start. And
But what would be the reverse? What would be the reverse of that? Not creating jobs?
no. So I'm talking about the misconception.
No, I know.
Okay,
I get what you're saying, but I'm saying
Yeah.
I'm being
I got
facetious,
what you're
right?
saying. No, so
what
you
would be
can-
the
you can
reverse? I mean,
create-
because anybody who makes money in business has to have employees. So
Absolutely.
that argument can be made for anybody anywhere,
Absolutely.
right?
But you can have hundreds to thousands of employees. It doesn't change the mindset.
Of course.
And that's what we're fighting against,
Right.
right? If you're telling me everything I've researched and developed and is untrue, right? Everything is false. Then now I have to take it and base it upon your character. You know, is what he's saying true, or is what I'm reading true, right? So
Right.
that's what we go up against.
Well, listen. First of all, I'm not saying the things you've read are untrue,
Uh-huh.
right? I'm just saying that they're nuanced, right? And there's nuances in life that you have to identify and then digest and then find out for yourself, how do those nuances actually apply to this person's character? And it's not as simple as an article that you read, right?
Yes, correct.
It's an oversimplification of the person, and it's an oversimplification of the issue, right? If there is one, right?
Yeah.
But I get it. I'm not. Listen, I get it. I like being me. I
Yeah.
enjoy my life. I am proud of my life, right? I'm proud of the things I've built, but I'm also proud to give 36 jobs to local Virgin Islanders, right?
Correct.
I'm also very proud to have, in my opinion, one of the best restaurants in the Virgin Islands, because it's not easy. Everybody thinks you're getting rich in the restaurant business. Let me tell you what. I mean, it's taken a toll on my relationship because
Yeah.
on top of my normal work, I'm at the restaurant when I'm not working there almost every single day, right? There's a lot of work. Chef Sunil, my business partner, who by the way is Indian,
Okay.
right? Again,
Namaste.
another person of color, because and I only bring that up because there's this.
I'm wondering.
Well,
I'm
there's
wondering why that's important.
Well, it is because if you read online, they try to make it out like we're some.
You're an all-white
Yeah,
establishment.
some establishment that only caters to white people and
Okay.
statessiders, and it's just simply not the case.
I see what you're
That is
saying.
a false label, right?
So would that be a nuance?
No, that would not be a nuance.
Okay.
A nuance, when I'm saying a nuance, is it is correct when you read in online that there were these charges in 2015 or 17. It went on for 2 years, right? That is correct. That is not a false statement.
Got you.
Right? The nuance is you have to understand what those charges were and how did they end up. Right?
Okay.
And they end up being reversed on appeal. Right? So if you respect the judicial process,
Yeah.
right, then you have to also respect the fact that the charges were reversed on appeal.
So
That's a nuance.
yeah, a lot of people don't really celebrate the innocence, right?
Oh.
When people are,
For sure.
charged with a guilt, right, or charged with the charge of being guilty. But
Of course.
I see what you're saying, Mac. But what I'm trying to get from all of this,
Yeah.
because it confuses the heck out of me,
Right.
is that are you gonna change?
I mean, I don't know what there is to change. I don't feel like I've done anything wrong
Yep.
to change. I mean, I guess I have. I mean, listen, I mean, to the extent that I have allowed a few people in the community that don't even live here anymore,
Okay.
former elected officials that kind of fled the island, to shape some type of narrative about me. I guess I failed in that aspect. So I would like to do more to make sure that people get to know who I am personally. But I don't apologize for giving almost $1 million in philanthropic initiatives over the last 5 years. I'm
Okay.
proud of that, right? I don't apologize for generating in economic development dollars, over 3 years now at St. Thomas Social, almost $9 million in revenues, right? I don't apologize for that, right? I also don't apologize for Mac Private Equity, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I tried, right? I tried and I failed. And on that particular failure, there was some outside influences that played a part in it. But I was the quarterback. It rests on my shoulders.
Got you.
I have 12 businesses. This one failed.
Okay.
So I tried and I failed, but I still tried.
That's
And
right.
that's the difference between me and other people. Is that I'm not scared to take a chance.
Gotcha.
I'm not scared to take a risk. I'm not scared to put my neck out there. That is business. That is the difference between, in my opinion, winning and losing. Winners and losers is winners, right? Even if you lose sometimes, winners never give up, and they're not scared to take a chance. And that to me is a fundamental difference, right? So I can't apologize, for something that I did my best, and I continue to do my best for a year to try to keep the boat afloat while all of this was coming down. But at some point, you gotta cut your losses, right? That is business, and it would have been business malpractice. It would have been unfair to my creditors, right? If I would have let the bleeding continue when the business was insolvent.
So let me ask you a human
So I don't
question,
apologize for that.
because there's a lot of business jargon being thrown around, and I can't Google that.
Yeah, I understand.
But let me ask a human question: if you can reverse anything, what would it be as far as your actions? If you can reverse it, or are there no regrets?
I'll be honest, man. I mean, we're talking like in the. I think everybody regrets certain things, right? Over the course of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But I don't really have any regrets when it comes to how this was put together. This individual business was put together in good faith with a good faith plan to execute, and it made sense on paper, right? There was an existential force that we already covered that got involved and threw a wrench into what we were doing, right? And it made it untenable. Okay. Again, I can't apologize for that, because I did the best that I could under the circumstances, and I had to deal with the situation at hand. I had to make the tough decisions, which is another part of business, is that you can't be scared to make the tough decisions. And now I have to deal with the fallout. With the consequences. And there is a fallout from it, right? And that's why you got to hear this and that and all this other nonsense. Man, at the end of the day, if this was New York City, you would never even hear about this, because you have 1,000 Chapter 7s and 11s being filed every single day.
Correct.
Right? It's nothing new. This is not unnormal.
That's life in the city.
This is business, man. Right? That's what the chapter laws are for.
So going forward,
Yeah.
do we get a new Mac? Do we get the same Mac? Do we get an evolved Mac? Do
Well,
we
I
get
hope
a
so.
Virgin Islands sensitive Mac?
Well,
What do we get?
first of all, I think I've always been sensitive to the Virgin Islands again.
Okay.
I think that's another unfair, label that's been put on this notion that
Because I don't know what people want to see or get.
I don't
from
know
you.
either. And by the way, there may just be people that just for whatever reason, whether the way I look or where I come from or whatever the deal is,
No, it's based on history.
that they're never going to like me.
You're
right?
coming behind a lot of historical failures and things like that.
And I understand that.
Yep.
And I am sensitive to that.
Yep.
Right? But I can't spend my whole life trying to make everybody else happy. Okay? If I have to operate in good faith. If I'm operating in good faith, I'm doing the best I can. I'm treating people with respect. I'm doing good by 95% of the people I come in contact with. What is there to change? I mean, guess what? I mean, your question is, would I change anything? Again, apparently, out of all the philanthropies that we've done, okay, the almost $1 million that we've given to charity, right? Apparently, that wasn't enough for people to say that there's real buy-in in this community, or they think that the charity was done for the purposes of something else, right? To make it look like you're doing good while you're making money on the backs of the people.
Of charity versus business, or is that just who Mac McClafferty is?
I love philanthropy. I love it more than I love business. I love being able to facilitate things for people that otherwise could not afford it. But I also love business.
Yeah.
I'm a capitalist, right? I love making money. I'm not going to apologize for making money, right? So I think two things can be true at the same time. I can like philanthropy and I can like business, right? But the idea that somehow the philanthropy was just like a cover while I'm making millions and millions of dollars from the government, again, I've never received a single dollar from the government of the Virgin Islands. So when Janelle Sereau tries to play that game, like I'm traveling the world with the governor and all this nonsense by using 3-year-old photos and splicing them together to make it look like this is something that's more sinister than it actually is, because it's not at all, that is unfair. So I'm getting no benefit. What is the benefit that I'm receiving? That's my question.
It's great you brought that up, because I really want to know this. If this person that is quote unquote against you, sitting across from you, what would that conversation look like from your end?
Listen, I would debate Janelle. You're talking about if Janelle was here?
Without saying any names,
I mean,
whoever's against you.
I would love to have a debate with Janelle.
Okay.
Right? And listen, and a fair one at that.
Is that a challenge?
I mean, I would challenge her to a debate any day of the week.
Okay.
Right? Because at the end of the day, I think that she plays both arsonist then victim of the fire. She lights everything on fire, and that's a metaphor.
Of course.
She lights everything on fire, and then when it blows back in her face, she goes, "Oh, they're getting personal. See, I'm coming with the receipts, and they're getting personal." No, she's getting personal. When you call somebody corrupt, you are making a direct criminal accusation against somebody. That is personal. Okay? So if she wants to have a debate, we can have a debate. And especially if she wants to keep it on the facts, we can have a debate, right? But as far as her sitting in front of me right now, I would have no problem having a discussion with her. But guess what? The problem with that is a conversation with a solution is not what she's looking for. She doesn't want a solution. She wants a fire, because the fire is what she thinks is going to get her back into politics and get elected or be appointed a commissioner if one of her buddies gets elected governor, right? She wants the fire. She doesn't want the solution. If she wants a solution, I would love to sit with her and we could have a conversation about what that solution could look like and what part I could play and what part she could play in Coral Springs, Florida, right, to make that solution a reality. But from what I see is all you have is somebody sitting in Florida trying to light the Virgin Islands on fire without proposing a single solution. And that is my problem, right? You want to attack me? That's fine. I got big shoulders, man, right? I can deal with a lot. I got thick skin. I've been at this game since I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not easily bullied and I'm not easily intimidated, right? But for the sake of the Virgin Islands, stop tearing people apart. You want to be a divider or do you want to be a uniter?
I got you.
Right? And I'm just telling you, I mean,
which one are you?
I think I'm a uniter. I think everything that I've done in my life, especially here in the Virgin Islands, would indicate that's about bringing the community together. I have never once turned down an opportunity to sponsor a charitable event, especially one for children that brings the community together.
Absolutely.
I've been part of that every step of the way. I'm big time involved in the churches, St. Peter and Paul Cathedral. I donate big money to them. Private schools, public schools, you name it. I've always been there to bring the community together. Am I perfect? Am I trying to make myself out to be some saint? Absolutely not. Don't ever get it twisted. I am a bottom line guy and I like a profit, right?
Yeah.
And I'm in this business to make money,
Yeah.
right? But I'm not going to apologize when tough decisions in business have to be made as well. That is good business and that is good politics if you're practicing what you preach.
Understood.
Yeah.
And it's safe to say you know where you're at, correct?
Yep.
So there's rules to the land,
Of course.
and you're okay with following those rules.
Of course. Of course.
And I think that's what the people
Of course.
are not hearing from you, because they're taking it as the arrogant American tourist.
I understand, but I guess I would say that I think they want me to play the role of somebody who's going to curl up in the ball,
Correct.
and just take a beating that's not justified, and that's just not who I am. The Italian Irish in me isn't just going to sit there and let somebody wrongfully and viciously pound on me when it's not justified. So I mean, it's one thing if it was justified, right? But when you are purposely misrepresenting facts, posting 3-year-old photos, trying to make it look like during a power outage, me and the governor are flying around in Air Force One, that is a purposefully disingenuous thing. That is dishonest, right? And I'm not just going to let that go,
I
right?
feel you.
So I respect the Virgin Islands immensely. again, my girlfriend is a Virgin Islander.
What do you have to say good to the Virgin Islands,
It's still
the listening community right now?
This is the best place in the world to live. I mean, I'm going to tell you that. I mean, other than, of course, I miss DoorDash and some of the creature comforts that come from the States, right? It's the best place to live. This is real freedom down here. For the United States, right? I mean, the States are like a police state now, man, right? I mean, down here you have real freedom, right?
Yep.
And it's one of the most gorgeous places on earth. And the people are great people. I love the people of the Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this keyboard warrior nonsense is not indicative of the people of the Virgin Islands. It's not right. And I'm going to tell you, they're not doing the Virgin Islands any benefit because you have tourists. This economy is based 90% on tourism, right? So you got people from the States asking benign questions about the island because they're trying to plan a trip, right? Maybe not skinning their back would be a good idea because we want those dollars in this territory.
Absolutely.
Right? So, that's my thing is, I love the Virgin Islands. I love the people. It's one of the greatest places on earth. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't mean that I have to be a punching bag. And I'm not going to allow somebody to turn me into a punching bag for their political gain. And that's what this is.
It's all political.
It's all political.
Wow, that's deep, man.
Yep.
Mac
That's fact.
McClafferty, man.
Yeah, man.
I felt like I learned a lot about you today.
A little bit more heated than
I know, right?
our usual conversations.
I took off the gloves and everything.
But I wanted you to, and you asked great questions.
I understand.
Have you ever known me to not to be straight with you?
No, I've never known you. I've known you to show up and show out.
There you have it.
And I've known the people that are against you to just kind of do what they do.
And where are they at?
Right. So
where are they at?
I don't know.
A lot of them you don't see.
So
you don't see them
I can't
at
talk
these events.
about them.
Yeah.
I can only talk about what's in front of me.
But I think their absence speaks louder than words, right? You're attacking the doers. Meanwhile, the non-doers are just, posting Facebook Lives from Miami and not really doing anything except rebel rising. Right. You know what I mean?
Rising.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's or rebel rousing, I think is the proper term.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
But that is not good. Again, that's not good for the Virgin Islands, right? And here's the deal. I mean, and I'll end it with this. Listen, if anybody, I'm an easy guy to find, right? If I'm not working throughout the day at my office, I'm at social at night, right?
That's right.
If anybody wants to come and get to know who I am, and wants to meet me directly, and wants to have a real conversation about what we're doing in the Virgin Islands, you can show up to social any day of the week and we can have a conversation. Then you can make a determination of, am I a good guy? Am I a bad guy? Am I here for the right reasons? But to just blindly follow nonsense on social media.
Correct. It's romantic.
I don't think that's what a strong mind does.
Are we going to see more of you on social media?
Of course, of course, yeah, of course. Yeah, my family and friends, they cringe every time.
I've been seeing some things too.
But
Mac,
but it is what it is, man.
I'm gonna say this real quick. You do have a website.
Yeah.
You have a nonprofit.
Yep.
Do you want to tell the people what that is?
Yeah. So if you want to know about me personally, we launched the website McClafferty.com. That's MacClaffferty.com. So you can learn all about everything that we're doing in this community, both commercially and philanthropically. Now, if you want to learn about the foundation, or if you want to apply, if you have a child, who's going to be graduating from a public high school in the Virgin Islands, and that could be St. Thomas, St. Croix, or St. John. You want to apply for a scholarship, you can go to www.mcclafferty.org. McClafferty.org. That's MCCLAFFERTY.org. That is the nonprofit. That is the foundation arm.
Okay.
So again, I appreciate the time and the
Mac,
and the hard
real,
questions,
man. Let's go box, man.
That's it, man. Hey, sometimes you got to do it. Man.
Yeah,
let's rip the scab off and let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. What is true? What is false? Let's cut through the nonsense. Right. You're not going to make everybody happy, man.
No.
Right. But I can answer. All I can do is answer the questions to the best of my ability. And I hope that I did that for you today.
You did it for me, man.
All right,
I
brother.
appreciate you, Mac.
Well, I appreciate you.